A series of new polls out this week shows that the Democratic primary campaign for New York City mayor now has a clear frontrunner, and it is not Mayor Bloomberg's preferred candidate. City Council Speaker Christine Quinn is not in the lead anymore. Instead, it's Bill de Blasio, New York City's public advocate. He's pulled ahead of the pack in advance of the September 10th primary. And the question is, does this mean he now has the inside track on becoming New York's next mayor and one of the most prominent progressive leaders in the country by extension?
I don't think anybody, following this race for the last couple months would have predicted this. I mean, what seemed to almost have happened is Weiner came in, sort of created this excitement for an outsider, energized the race, people started paying attention, and then he faded when more revelations came out about his sort of Twitter activities, and de Blasio sort of been the beneficiary of that.
Even when Weiner was still in the front and launched his campaign, one of the concerns in his initial campaign ad was his talk about stop and frisk, his talk about the use of police force. While that made some people feel comfortable, other people said, oh, he's going to add more police to the street. Black and brown voters often said, wait, that's problematic for us. So identity politics and racial politics in particular became central to the conversation. Exit Weiner, enter de Blasio to the front of the pack, and he's able to sort of navigate identity politics in a different way. How has he been so effective at it?
Yeah, I mean, so African-American Latino voters are, I think, roughly around a third of the Democratic primary vote. And so being able to get them would get you close to the way to winning. So de Blasio has an African-American wife. Thus two half African-American children who who are often out campaigning with him, especially in front of black audiences. Yeah. And he's really been able to cut into Bill Thompson's appeal among that community.
Because a cynic would argue, I mean, you look at these ads, he has his son Dante there with a huge afro. I mean, very clearly using racial markers aesthetically to show, look, not only am I connected to the black community, I am intimately connected to the African-American community. Is it somewhat in poor taste? Is this becoming like a mascot sort of thing? Some cynics would say he's not doing this out of interest.
Sure. I mean, you'd have to sort of, I think every voter will have to sort of decide that on their own a little bit. He has a family. He certainly is entitled to showcase his family and talk about his family as much as anyone else is able to talk about that family. The extent to which it becomes sort of too much for anyone, I think, voters will have to decide. When he goes to African-American audiences with Dante, like Dante is the star. Dante overshadows de Blasio.
Right. So
I don't get the sense that there is a lot of cynicism about it towards it. I think people think it's sort of this hopeful, all-American work quilt family kind of situation. But I'm certainly there are voters who will be turned off by it. Bill de Blasio is like one of the most sophisticated political operators to run for office in New York or maybe anywhere. I mean, it's as if you had James Carville or Karl Rove or David Axelrod, not as the advisor, not as the consigliere, but as the candidate. So the extent to which that will serve him in office should he get there, I think we remain to be seen a little bit, but it's going to be fascinating to watch.
Historical context first. If Bill de Blasio is elected mayor, we will know less about him than any mayor that's been elected in my lifetime in New York. I go back to covering campaigns with Lindsay. We know almost nothing about this man. And tick off in your own mind the mayors that have been elected since Lindsay. And I think one of the reasons why he's at the head of the polls is because no one knows anything about him.